I'm Florington. I'm from Batiklo, where I was born in a conflict zone. For the last 30 years, I was living where my parents were really affected by the conflict that was going on in Sri Lanka for the last 3 decades.
Tell me a little bit about your early life.
Well, when I was age 11, where there was a huge massacre in my village, where my father only could escape from the massacre, which made me, okay, that place is not a suitable place for me to stay and continue my education, because the education at the time was very low. We were not given any facilities to go to schools due to this conflict situation. Then later on, I decided, with a support of a bishop in Batiklo and Trincomalee district. So he took me to a school in the Batiklo city where I learned actually English from the beginning, A, B, C, D. It's because of the conflict that we were not having proper facility for education. There were lots of children in my village affected because of this conflict. Later, they didn't know what to do. They joined armed groups and they died.
Why did you come to work with Nonviolent Peaceforce?
And then I was involved in the media life, which put me in danger at some point. So in 2005, I had to leave the country. And then later I realized, okay, I can do much for the society to overcome these challenges out of the conflicts which comes a daily life. So I made up my mind to work for an INGO to support the civilians who are affected in the zones, conflict zones. Then I joined an organization called Terades Homes, which based their head office in Switzerland. This organization only child rights based organization where they were providing supports and assistance on counseling and psychosocial to the children who were affected by war as well as by tsunami in the region where my place was involved in that. Later I identified, okay, I was a protection officer at the time, providing trainings on child rights and child protection to the government authorities as well as to the communities and to the parents, mentioning their obligations towards children and their rights. Because we found out the lack of government official services at the time was very poor. Even they don't know what to do on the rights of the children, to support to the rights of the children. So
you came to work for NP primarily to begin with as a child protection officer?
yes, so there was a vacancy called in Nonviolent Peaceforce, which made me, okay, I have to immediately apply because it is a general civilian protection agency. So I was particularly focusing on child protection in the previous organization. So I thought, okay, it's a broad idea which I was dreaming for years, to support the individuals in the society as well as in the country who are really affected by war and conflict. So I put myself, and then I started working as a field officer in Batiklo district, which the positive side or strength side that I can speak all the three languages in the country, which made my work very easy to interact with the communities where there were violences. So we have to speak their own language to solve their problems.
Now, from your experience with NP, can you give us one experience that you feel represents the real impact that the work NP has in the community?
There was a conflict in between two communities where those conflicts were driven on political basis. So there were non-state armed actors were really active in those days or those years. So they invited Nonviolent Peaceforce for protective presence and to create a space for dialogue in between those two communities. So making a dialogue in between two communities who are in conflict is not easy. We have to maintain non-partisanship, we have to be neutral, and then we have to show our presence and to make the trust on my organization. So we were having another network of religious leaders where we found out who can provide some space to bring those two parties for discussions, dialogue. So in that term, I was really working on that. It's a good impact that after 5 days, the conflict stopped in those two villages. And then we could see the physical peace around those two societies. There were lots of abductions and killings were going on in those two societies. And we were invited. Nonviolent Peace was invited by those two community leaders.
Can you remember anything that somebody said to you that showed their appreciation or their feelings for the change that you had been able to bring about?
Well, I have some friends in the Batticaloa district who really encourage this work. Also some state actors and non-state parties. They were really appreciating the role that I was playing in the society based on neutral and non-partisanship basis. So they were telling, okay, Nonviolent Peace was doing a better and best job considering or comparing with other INGOs. They were mentioning other protection agencies, but they don't feel that the non-partisanship or the neutrality that I was playing as a national with that organization. So that is a good impact in the society itself.
Now, in this time, we might call it post-conflict, the big war that was happening in Sri Lanka, the big conflict has largely come to an end. So in this post-conflict environment, what part do you feel groups like Nonviolent Peaceforce can play in this current context?
Always, I assume post-conflict situations are an open door for another conflict or not. So this is where Nonviolent Peaceforce has to play a big role among the parties who were involved in conflict and assuming that who can be involved in the future in the conflict. So these are some areas that Nonviolent Peaceforce has to identify and then bring them for dialogue, building peace among those two parties or three parties. And then still the communities never trust these state actors because of their past experiences. So building the trust of the communities is a big challenge, and which Nonviolent Peaceforce can continue that work.
Now you're leaving Sri Lanka to take up a post in Sudan, also with Nonviolent Peaceforce. What experience do you think you're going to be able to bring to the situation in Sudan that will really be creative and help in the situation now in Sudan?
I always assume that civilian protection is everyone's business. So that the knowledge that I learned in my field, because I am a conflict zone boy or man, I was taught by Nonviolent Peace was how to protect individuals during conflict situation, and which I learned. And then my area is child protection, because I was totally involved in protecting children due to from preventing them from recruitment, accompanying them, reintegrating them, or reintegration process. We were involved in that, doing follow-ups, making contingency plan with the families to protect the children, creating safe space for children where the community can protect themselves and their children. So these are the knowledge that I learned from Sri Lanka, which I assume and I hope that this is going to be very effectively implied in Sudan project, where we are learning that we are going to have a child protection project, which I'm absolutely having a hope that I can do my best out of the practical experiences that I had in Sri Lanka.
Now, could you just use one sentence, a greeting to your friends in Sri Lanka?
I would like to greet my friends in Sri Lanka. We have been passing different challenging periods in Sri Lanka, war zones or war situation, conflicts in between groups. So now we say war stop and peace process start, but I don't see a physical peace around in Sri Lanka. Physical war being stopped, but there is political war, economic war, and the crises are going on. It's increasing day by day. So I would like to remind my friends, study what non-violence is and apply it in your life. The original change should come within yourself. Then you can make the change in the society.